This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I am grateful to be in the land of the dying, headed for the land of the living. And I've come to remind you today that in spite of the pandemic, God is still in control. He is still on the throne. And we have a whole lot to be thankful for, that even in the midst of all that we're going through, the Lord is still keeping us. I want to call your attention today to Paul's second letter to the church at Corinth, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And I want to look today at verses 7 through 9. I want to read it in your hearing out of the King James Version of the Bible, Paul's second letter, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 7 through 9. It reads like this: "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us." Paul says, we are troubled on every side, yet we are not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. We are persecuted, but not forsaken. We are cast down, but not destroyed. Let me read those two verses again. He says, we are troubled on every side, yet we are not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. We are persecuted, but not forsaken. We are cast down, but not destroyed. The Apostle Paul said that even as an apostle, I am attacked by trouble and persecution, perplexity, and at times I'm even cast down. But even though those are my realities, I am not distressed, I'm not in despair, I am not forsaken, and I am not destroyed. And the reason why those four things do not have victory is because the treasure was there before the trouble. If the treasure weren't there, then these four realities would destroy me. But because the treasure is on the inside, it is not the container that is keeping the content, but the content is keeping the container. Let me say it again. The container is not keeping the content, but the content is keeping the container. The reason why the devastation has not devastated you is because the treasure that's on the inside of you is keeping you. The reason why man's plots have not worked against you is because you've got something on the inside of you that is keeping you from being destroyed by the things on the outside of you. If the treasure wasn't already in us, then these realities would have destroyed us. Paul wrote this letter, this book, to the church of Corinth in response to a series of attacks on his integrity and his apostolic authority. False teachers had infiltrated the Corinthian church, and when they did, they wanted to make Paul out to be a fraud, and so they attacked Paul's integrity. So Paul ended up writing this letter to the church of Corinth to vindicate and to validate his apostolic authority and his personal integrity by telling them, first of all, that I am not operating by my own authority, that there is something in me that is greater than me that allows me to do what I do for the glory of God. Paul says, I'm just carrying the treasure, and I'm carrying the treasure in an earthen vessel. It is deity in dirt. It is treasure in the midst of trash. Paul says, look past me and look in me. I have Jesus on the inside, who is the fullness of God in a human body. God is in Jesus and God is in me. I have divine content. But Paul says, here is the problem, that God put divine content in a defective container. That God put treasure in an earthen vessel. God, why would you choose this type of vessel? Why put the perfect in the imperfect? Why put the unlimited in the limited? Why put the permanent in the perishable? Why put deity in dirt, treasure in earthen vessels? Why choose dirt for your house? Treasure in earthen vessels. God said, I need this to be a healthy combination of glory and humility, of divinity and humanity, of perfection and imperfection. I need to put deity in the midst of dirt. I need there to be a healthy relationship between the glory of God and the humility of humanity. And so what I did is I put treasure in the midst of trash, treasure in an earthen vessel. And because I did it that way, when these are your realities, you'll still be able to make it. Paul said, I and all believers have treasure in them, so that even though we are troubled, we are not in distress. The Greek translation of that phrase is that we are crowded with pressure, but we are not hemmed in. He says, then we are perplexed, but we are not in despair. The Greek translation means that we are at a mental loss, but it's not as if there is no way out. The third one, we are persecuted, but we are not forsaken. The Greek translation is, the word for persecuted here means to be chased. Forsaken means to be left behind. So Paul says, even though I am being chased, I'm not being left behind, because though something is behind me trying to get me, it cannot get me because I've got someone with me. And because the Lord is with me and has not left me, what's behind me cannot get to me. Here's the fourth one. He says, we are cast down, but we are not destroyed. That since it is an earthen vessel, when it's thrown down, it's supposed to break. But because of the treasure that's on the inside, when I'm thrown down, I don't break. I don't know about you, but I'm not even supposed to be here because of how many times I've been cast down and cast aside. But thanks be unto God that even though I've been thrown down, I have not broken. I wonder, is there anybody that can testify that I've been cast down? They thought I was going to break, but I'm still here. According to the plans and the plots of the enemy, you should be broken by now. But the reality is that you are still here. I've been cast down, but I've not been destroyed. I've been thrown down, but I'm not broken, because greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I wonder, where are the refused to be broken people that can say that life and situations have cast me down, have thrown me to the side, but I refuse to be. Cancer hit you, but you refuse to be broken. Money problem, but you refuse to be broken. I keep getting back up because of the power that's on the inside. He said, I've been cast down, but I am not destroyed. Here's the good news, that God has been so good to you that though they cast you down, you will not stay down. Every time a weapon was formed against you, it did not prosper because of what you have on the inside. You've been cast down, but not destroyed. Paul says, I've got treasure on the inside. And the reality is that I'm not holding the treasure, but the treasure is holding me. That I'm not keeping the treasure, but the treasure is keeping me. These four statements are a marriage between earthen pots and excellent power. Earthen pots, excellent power. Trouble, that's the earthen pot. But we're not distressed, that's the excellent power. Persecuted, that's the earthen pot, but not in despair. That's God's excellent power. We've been cast down. That's the earthen pot, but not destroyed because of God's excellent power. The excellency of the power is seen in the fact that the adversaries that you are going through and the adversity you're going through have not destroyed you,